Welcome to Tax Defense Connect by DPZ with your host, Delphine Parigi. In each episode, we will discuss keeping and defending your empire against tax fraud accusations. Please note that the contents, opinions, discussions, and any other related information from this podcast is not intended to be tax or legal advice. Individuals and representatives of entities should consult with a tax professional based on the specific facts and circumstances of the taxpayer to determine how federal, state, and foreign tax laws as applicable may apply to their specific situation. You can find the show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Now here's the host of Tax Defense Connect by DPZ, Delphine Parigi.
Hello everyone, I'm so happy to run this second episode of Tax Defense Connect dedicated to tax defense for business leaders and for lawyers all over the world with a link to France. Today, I have a very special guest who is Armand Feste-Guidon, a very experienced defense criminal lawyer in France and who has a deep expertise in tax criminal defense. I'm very happy to introduce you to Armand Feste-Guidon.
Hello, Delphine. Hello, everyone. Thank you a lot for the invitation. Really happy to be there and that we can talk about criminal law and tax evasion or tax issues.
And I'm so happy that we are launching today with you because actually it's episode 2, but I think it's the first episode. We are going to the grounds of criminal tax law, which is police custody. So before we jump into the other steps of the story of criminal tax defense, what is a police custody in France? How does it look like? Can you give us, based on your experience?
Well, it's nasty. It should be. That's a police custody, and it has it's meant to put pressure on people, and it's meant to try to get some it's an interview that is not a real interview, so that people could explain exactly what they've done, and there are some ideas that they've done things that are not properly or not really legal. So that's pressure, and I think that people, and especially business leaders, what they should understand is that they are under suspicion in France, and they have rights. And because they have rights, they should use them, because if they are not using them, then they might get to give a little too many details about their companies, about what they're accused of, and then the situation might get worse. Perhaps,
And
yeah.
how does it get? What does it mean to get it worse?
Well,
How can you have a good police custody or a wrong police custody, if the question makes sense to you?
oh no, it definitely makes sense. And it definitely makes sense to the clients too. So I would say that a good police custody, it depends on the point of view. Like from the point of view of the police officer, a good police custody is that the person talked a lot and said a lot of things that are incriminating. A good police custody from the point of view of the client and of the lawyer is where you haven't said much that is incriminating, or you haven't said much at all because you've used one of the main rights you have, which is to remain silent. The other most important right during this police custody is to have a lawyer. You have the right to have a lawyer, and you should definitely use this right. So the idea is that since we are lawyers and we are here to try to help our clients to get through a difficult situation, the idea is that a good police custody is when you're out, your lawyer said, okay, you went through, the gameplay, and I'm happy with what you said, or with what you've not said.
Very simple question. You say we have a right to have a lawyer. Which type of lawyer? Should it be a criminal defense lawyer like you or a tax lawyer like me?
Well, I would say that for a case where you have criminal tax law, you might want to get actually both lawyers, which is possible. Like then, of course, the police officers might not be happy when they see two lawyers come in for the police interview, and it's quite rare.
Mm.
But you want the expertise of both the minds of the tax lawyer and the criminal lawyer. If you can't, then at least you should prepare, if you can, of course, you should prepare beforehand your interview with both lawyers, the criminal lawyer and the tax lawyer.
Mm. It's very interesting. I didn't know that there was this possibility of having two lawyers. We've been working together on cases where we are two lawyers, but after the police custody. So I think it's a very important information that legally in France, it's possible. And it makes sense because in the police, there is representative of the pure judiciary police, but also policemen who come from the tax inspection. So it really makes sense. Thank you. It's extremely important what you're saying.
And also what people need to understand and what our clients need to understand is that when you have the chance to prepare for a police custody, for a police interview, then you should definitely do it. What I mean by that is that in France, there is the risk, of course, that the police custody would start at 6 a.m. when after a police search at your home or at your company, in that then they take you, the police officers take you, and you go directly to the police station. But, and especially in tax criminal law, actually what happens that you get a summon, you get a notification that you are expected to come at the police station at a defined date, which means that you have several days or several weeks to prepare yourself. That's the time where you should talk to your tax lawyer and most probably also to a criminal lawyer so that you can prepare for this interview to understand what will probably happen, what is the strategy, what you should say and not say.
Mm-hmm. You have a huge experience in criminal defense lawyer and especially business criminal defense affairs. What is for you the main surprise or the main difference, if there any difference between a business affairs case in a criminal business case, sorry, and a criminal tax case?
Well, what I would say is that, let's say that in a normal criminal case where people are in the police station, they, let's say that my clients then can be kind of used to police interviews. But with criminal law and tax law, criminal tax law, then they are not used to that. They are business entrepreneurs, they are business leaders, and what they do every day is running their companies and making deals. So what I've noticed, and I know that we've talked about that many times, is that um, the clients, when there is a case with criminal tax law, is that their first insight is to say, okay, with whom should I talk to? With whom should I deal about this case? What is the negotiation here? How should I pay? How much? What is the deal that I can make? And that's a huge mistake, because criminal law, even if it's about tax law, if it's tax fraud, is not about, at this stage, with police station, with police interview, it's not about making a deal. It's not about negotiation. It's about whether or not the police officers are going to be able to build a case against you. And that's the huge difference. It's not a negotiation time, it's a defense time that has nothing to do. It's just not the same.
No, so yes, it's very important to have this this overview. I would say as well, from a tax standpoint, it's something that also business leaders can consider having a deal with the tax authorities. I guess it comes from early ages, but today in 2026 in France, there are no deals either with the tax authorities. Just the standpoint is different from criminal law and tax law, but it's not a deal. When we have a transaction, it's not a deal actually. It's also the proof that we can bring to limit a tax reassessment and also the proceedings, just like in criminal law. So I have the same experience with business leaders in tax, sometimes in tax audit, even without criminal impact, consider they can negotiate with the tax authorities. And you're right, it's a real psychological way, which is difficult for the business leaders to understand.
Yeah, like, I think it's like what I might think of is basically you don't negotiate with public authorities. They have a case, like with tax laws or criminal laws, like do they have a case or do they not have a case? And then we can talk. And I would say that then our jobs as lawyers, tax lawyer or criminal lawyer, is just to make sure that they don't have a case.
This is maybe also there are differences between countries. I think for the business leaders who are in the US right now, I think it's been a long time they understand that they don't negotiate with IRS. Whereas in France, it's true that there were some ages where we could talk to the local tax inspector, and even if we don't negotiate with the tax authorities, before this law of criminal tax in 2018, the tax inspector has quite a wide possibility of negotiating with the administrative guidelines, and it could make feel that there was a space for that. So I'm saying today, it's not the case anymore in France, nor in the United States, in Hungary, in Poland. So maybe there are still some countries where it's possible to negotiate with tax authorities, but I think, yes, it's the end of an era, and that's why we are there to prepare the business leaders for that.
And if I may, like, let me perhaps, if we have time, like, we could just sign it. Oh, okay. It's just that the idea is that at least what I'm saying about criminal law, because that's my area of expertise, is that there is no time for negotiation at the police station, during the police custody, during the police interview, because that's the police officer is not the person with whom you are going to negotiate, because he's not the one who's taking the decision. Like, you negotiate with people who actually take the decision. And this, at least the exception with criminal tax law is that what we have in France, especially for big cases, is the Parquet national financier, which is this huge body, public body, public prosecutors body in Paris, which is dealing with every big criminal tax law cases. And the Parquet national financier, so PNF, is actually quite keen of guilty pleas. So we can't and we shouldn't try to negotiate during this police custody, but we should have in mind for a tax law case, with criminal tax law case, that actually the public prosecutors, especially the ones in Paris with the PNF, are actually willing to try to talk with lawyers about those cases and to try to get guilty pleas when, of course, the case has been properly built up.
So thank you. You spoke earlier about this mindset of business leaders. Now, more from a strategy standpoint, the thing is, when you have a police custody, you don't necessarily know the topic. And in particularly, tax topic can be the topic or one of the topics of the police custody. How do you recommend to deal with this topic? How in the strategy do you take care of this topic and coordination of the team? How do you feel about that?
So what should be like fully understood is that when the police interview starts, the police custody, is that you give an official notification of your rights, right to have a lawyer, right to remain silent, and a few others, and also you have the right to know the crimes that you are suspected of having done and why you are here, and this is the reason why you're here in police custody. So you know that, for example, you are here for tax evasion, tax fraud, but there can be also other crimes like association malfaiteur or anything else. This is the only thing we have. The lawyer, the client, we don't have access to the case, nothing. This is the only document we have. And with this document and 30 minutes with the clients, we have to understand what they might have and what should be the strategy. I would say I can't make a general rule because, well, all the clients are different. But let's say that if someone has been searched at his home, then take directly to custody. And as a lawyer, I appear only at the beginning at the police station. And I just have those 30 minutes with a confidential talk with my clients. And I only know those few crimes that he's suspected to have committed. Then it might be that my defense strategy will be to remain silent because I don't know what will happen. I don't know what they have, and my client cannot also know what they have. And we didn't have enough time during those 30 minutes to build a defense. That would be the first idea. The idea would be different if we got summoned, if we got a notification that we are expected to appear in a few weeks for a police interview. And then we have time. Then we have time to review the case, for example, with a tax lawyer, to prepare the case and to prepare to bring some documents and to prepare a strategy. So I would say that, like, to summarize, it depends how this police custody, this police interview started. Then the strategy might be different.
And this is why it's so important that in a police custody, clients have a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because if I may share a recent experience for business leaders who have been under custody, they were not surprised of why they were there because it was in a big media question. And they didn't ask for a lawyer because the police say, you don't need a lawyer and that's okay.
Of course.
And of course,
in this take too much time.
Too expensive, all this type of question. And in this case, the clients, almost felt relieved of having this custody because it's something they were not comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, as a tax lawyer, this is where this topic is very important about the link between the custody and the tax audit. They felt guilty and they said they were guilty and have these foreign accounts and so on. However, this is for us as tax lawyer that the work starts. The police custody, as Armand, you just told us, it's just the beginning of an investigation. It's not a judgment. It's not a conclusion. And it's not a tax audit, which in tax is very important because as from this tape, if the client reacts and is well guided by their lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer, we can regularize spontaneously. And this is where there is a circle. So I'm sharing this to show that even if the police custody was not guided, we're still there. And the way of, making this articulation, because also if we, especially in tax fraud, we correct it before there is further investigation, there is also a reduction of the of the pursuit. So for you, how do you deal with the time frame of between criminal, from police custody and dealing with this your tax colleague? Because usually this type of cases, you are the orchestra, the pilot of the proceedings.
Well, I prefer to see myself as the co-pilot because tax law is way too much complicated and I'm way out of it to understand it. So, but let's say that like how the time frame works. I would say that there is the time frame of the police custody, and then there is the time frame of the, let's say, the entire procedures with an S plural, because of those the tax procedure and the criminal procedure. I would say that it depends on how it started. Meaning, if it started with the criminal law, like the public prosecutor got an information and started his investigation, then he will most probably get the lead on the procedure, will make most of the investigations, make police interviews and search warrants, blah blah blah, and then the tax procedure will just be a consequence of that. So we should, of course, deal first thing first with the criminal procedures. But the thing is that, and that's a little specific with tax fraud, criminal tax fraud, is that actually most cases start with the tax procedures. It starts with, I would say, with you know, you who tell me, okay, I've got this case. It's we have like lots of tax issues, and it's my feeling, because of course they're not like tax inspectors. If I'm correct, I'm never going to tell you or us like officially, but I've got a feeling that the amounts are so high that it might get criminal. And then the time frame changes, because then you were entering discussion, or you were doing your job on your side, but then there is this feeling, this understanding, because you also have lots of experience, that it might get criminal. And then we have to assess that and prepare, okay, if it's getting criminal, what should be your response? I mean, the client response. What should be his strategy? What should be the documents you have? Should your family be ready? Should your family be ready that there could be search at home, that they could have police officers? What will you do if you have a police interview, and what are the person that you will call? All those little details to prepare them as better as we can, so that if it happens, the client is not surprised and has a good reaction for his defense. That would be my idea for, let's say, theoretical difference between criminal procedures and tax procedure, and how to articulate both of them.
Yes, if I summarize what you said, is indeed in France, the criminal tax custody can appear under two different levels. The traditional one from the beginning of tax, let's say, is indeed having a criminal offense which triggers tax consequences, or more recently having media fraud like Panama Papers, Dubai Papers, and then there are public information coming to the police and to the PNF as well. And then there are criminal tax consequences, where on our side we try to do as much as possible to regularize from the tax, because tax is coming after the criminal case. And the more recent one, which is maybe sounds weird for many listeners, in France, since 2018, if there is a tax audit of more than 100,000 euros and bad faith penalties, the file goes directly to criminal prosecution, with a doubt on the timeline of whether there will be a police custody or not. So to you, what I heard from you is it's not possible to avoid this a police custody, but it's possible to prepare.
Yeah.
So how do you, maybe can you give us 3 takeaways to prepare to a police custody when there is a bad tax audit or any tax audits?
Definitely, and that's good that you said also what is extremely important. You cannot avoid it. You know, you cannot just make a call, or even a lawyer can your lawyer cannot make a call and say, sorry, I'm not available and will not come, because then what you might get is an arrest warrant, which means that people like police officers can go to your home and take you back to the police station. So I would say that first thing first, get a lawyer. That's really important. You cannot, like, you don't, if you have a heart issue with, you know, you get to someone who is doing surgery. That's the same. You have at this moment something that is really specific, and you need someone who has the capacity to deal with it. So get a lawyer, and is at best a good one, and someone who does that regularly. And second, if you don't have your lawyer because he's taking some time to come, which can happen, like he can have a hearing, he can be in another police interview, whatever, don't talk. As long as you haven't talked to your lawyer, don't talk. The police officers, and that happens a lot of time to my clients, they will always say, why do you take a lawyer? That costs a lot of money. That's useless. It's just, we are just having a conversation. We just want some explanations. We just need to clear some details. And if you tell us, then, you know, in 2 hours or in a 1 hour, that will be done. And don't worry. That's either a lie, because police officers have the right to lie, or it's also misguiding the client, because actually what he might say then gives some ideas to the police officer. And then the third takeaway I would say is, time is, during a police custody, is your worst enemy, and also your best ally, which is a little weird, but it's your worst enemy time, because during this 24 hours, or during those 48 hours, if it's extended, then during this time, the police officers can do whatever they want with you. They can ask you whatever they want, even if it's at 2 a.m. But it's also your best ally, because police custody has an end, which means that after 24 hours or 48 hours, then the police officers have to release you or take you to a judge. And then it will end. This police interview will end. They will stop to ask you questions. Consequence, at the end of this time, nothing more can happen without a judge. Those would
I
be
think
my
it's
three
very good that
takes
you
away.
say as well that you remind us about the fact in France, everybody is allowed to lie, contrary to what to the US.
Oh yeah.
And once again, this podcast is really dedicated to international leaders, and the reality is you may have branches employees who will be at a police custody. So am I right, Armand, to say we cannot avoid a police custody? Everyone can. Today I can go out of my office and being in a police custody for any reason. Hopefully not.
No.
But we cannot avoid, but we can prepare. Is it correct?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
maybe can you share 1 or 2 preparation points, except for having a lawyer, as you said, like tiny details, I say having a number, but maybe another last, help before we are coming to the end of this podcast. So how we can prepare? Just maybe 1 or 2 examples. Recommend.
Like I don't want to be too obsessive with it, but get the number of your lawyer in your wallet.
You're a lawyer, so you have to be obsessive, of course.
And I am, but they're really like my clients have always either my card, my professional card, or my number written on a piece of paper which is in their wallet, because then they don't need their phone to give my name. They can forget my name, or most probably they can not know my number. So that's really easy. Just have that in your wallet, the name and the number of your lawyer. And then if you have time, because you didn't get just right to the police station, but you are being summoned to, then in advance, make an appointment, go to your lawyers, especially if it's tax law, criminal tax law, and explain the issue to your lawyers, honestly, if you can, and so that you can prepare like properly the strategy, and then stick to it. Then you should stick to the strategy and not change because during the interview something is happening that you don't like, or because you feel pressure. You should stick to the strategy because that your lawyers have defined.
Thank you very much, Armand. I'm going to do the wrap up, the last word of today's episode. So why a police custody is not a tax audit? First, it's the beginning of an investigation which may relate to tax, which may not relate exclusively to tax. Second, if tax is a topic in this police custody, it's really recommended to have lawyers from a criminal standpoint and tax lawyers to regularize anything can be regularized and to articulate both strategies. And thirdly, you cannot avoid a police custody, but you can prepare it. I hope this information was very useful for international business leaders having activities in France. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Bye.
You've been tuning into Delphine Parigi's podcast, Tax Defense Connect by DPZ. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.